Could our soldiers be court-martialed for being patriotic? This is a ridiculous question, and it would be completely beyond the pale if it wasn't for a leaflet that started circulating on the internet a couple of days ago. And when I first saw this, I thought this must be a joke. There cannot be a document going around the British Army that tells people who are patriotic, who are concerned about their country, who are concerned about demographic change. Surely there couldn't be a leaflet circulating in the British Army saying that people who hold these views are in danger of becoming extreme right-wing terrorists, which is really what this leaflet was all about. The Army always uses abbreviations. The latest abbreviation is XRW. And these are some of the things, some of the traits of an XRW soldier, an extreme right-wing soldier. First of all, being patriotic. Now, I would have thought that if you're going to charge into a trench full of enemy combatants that want to destroy your country, then you should at least have a little small amount of patriotism. I think about friends of mine who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, who got very, very up close and personal with jihadists and killed them. Some of the most patriotic men I know. Of course, that wasn't the only motivation for them closing with and attacking and killing the enemy. Part of the motivation, I'm sure, was self-preservation. Another part of the motivation was to protect innocent life. But I'm absolutely certain that love for country and love for Queen was a huge part of the motivation of them doing what they did. Or maybe the modern British Army wants us to be patriotic to the EU. They want us to be EU soldiers instead of British soldiers. They want us to swear allegiance to Jean-Claude Juncker. Your Juncker needs you. Could that be what's going on here? We're living in very, very strange days. And of course, another trait of an extreme right-wing soldier would be using terminology like Londonistan. That's what this leaflet says. Obviously, the reader of the leaflet doesn't realise that the person who coined the phrase Londonistan is a one-time left-wing Guardian journalist and a complete enemy of the real far right because the lady is Jewish. So how could an extreme right-wing, fascist, Nazi sympathising soldier support a statement that was made by Melanie Phillips, probably one of the finest journalists in the United Kingdom and a totally fearless defender of Israel? Last time I checked, the extreme right wing did not like Israel or the Jewish people very much. But this is the crazy world that we live in. We're living in a world where right is called wrong and wrong is called right, where evil is good and good is evil. And I thought the British Army would have been immune to this. But sadly, the British Army seems to have been completely compromised now as well. Let's look at one of the other ones. Oh yeah, this is a great one. Another sign of an extreme right-wing soldier would be a soldier who used the term Islamofascism. Again, this is very, very interesting, because the term Islamofascism is not a term that is used to attack Islam. In fact, quite the opposite. The term Islamofascism has been used to defend Islam, because the people that use the term Islamofascism are using it to describe a part of the Muslim religion. They're using it to describe political Islam. Of course, this is totally false, because Islam is a unitary religion. You can't pick and choose which bits you like and which bits you don't like. But that's why Islamofascism is used, and George Bush Jr. used it when he was president. Several Jewish commentators and intellectuals used it, and several Muslim commentators and intellectuals used the term as well. So this was a term that was used by G.W. Bush, the neocons, who obviously were totally in bed with Tony Blair and the whole interventionist package that went on in Iraq and in Afghanistan. So if anybody should be hauled before the coals for using the term Islamofascist, it should be the people who were ruling our countries 20 years ago when they went into these wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I'm not looking at the rights or the wrongs of those wars. The point I'm making is the term Islamofascism was widely used. And I could be wrong, but I think Michael Gove himself in his book Celsius 77 may well have used very, very similar terminology, if not the exact word. It was definitely alluded to in that book. So now we have British soldiers that use terminology that was used by mainstream politicians 20 years ago, not even 20 years ago, 15 years ago. This terminology was been used by mainstream politicians, by military leaders, by military planners. Now that very terminology, Londonistan, Islamofascism, patriotism, has been used as a sign that our soldiers have become extreme right wing. That's bad, but the reality is, the truth behind that is far worse. Because what is happening, the progressive agenda, the liberal agenda, the far left agenda, and the Islamist agenda is now influencing not just government policy, but actually influencing disciplinary procedures within the British Army. That totally hollows out the British Army, that totally compromises the British Army, and that totally weakens the British Army. We're in big trouble. Our country is in big trouble. The nation is in big trouble. And if the military has been hollowed out, imagine what this does to morale when a soldier is told that it's wrong to be patriotic, it's wrong to call political Islam or Islamism Islamofascism. It's wrong to call London Londonistan, a term coined and made famous by Melanie Phillips, a very, very liberal in a lot of ways journalist that used to write for The Guardian. Alarm bells should be ringing, and they should be ringing extremely loud, because our state is becoming more and more totalitarian. And it's the liberal fascists, and I've named them before, but I'll name them again. It's people like David Lammy, it's people like Yvette Cooper, it's people in the Conservative Party like Anna Sowerby, or not, she's not in the Conservative Party anymore. It's people like Wes Streeting, who are pandering to this agenda and trying to demonise anybody that has a view that differs from theirs. I'm sure if you dug down deep enough, you'd find some document in the archive saying that if anybody voted Brexit, they're extreme right wing. So what do? Well, I keep saying it, I keep coming back to it. We've got to organise. We've got to organise the British working class into a political movement that will restore sanity to this country. Because the problem that we've got is a lot of these people that are in power, they've gone through the system. They've gone to a good grammar school or a good comprehensive school. They've gone straight into Oxford or Cambridge, and then they've had their brains removed at university, and then they've gone into law and politics and different areas of government. And that is the truth. They've learnt this progressive stuff. You're not born with this stuff. You learn it. And sadly, we need to remove these people from power. Sadly for them, they need to go, and they need to be consigned to the trash can of history. And we need to make Britain great again. We need to get Britain back on the right track. But the only way we can do that is through the political process. So we need to get our act together politically. And I'm going to talk about that in other videos. But it's time for us to stop playing games with this and start doing things the way that they should be done. I'll see you all soon.